Can Do Chemistry here to help you with naming compounds. So just another video. I've got some examples that we're going to work on, and when you look at these compounds, they all look alike. We've got atoms and we've got subscripts. So how can you tell if a compound is ionic or molecular? And you have to determine that before you name them, because there are different rules, just like there's different rules for endings in Spanish and French and so forth. So here we go. If you have a metal and a non-metal, or you recognize polyatomics, then it is ionic. If you have two non-metals bonded together, then that is molecular, and you have a different set of rules. So first thing, let's identify what we have here. I do notice I have a metal. Potassium is a metal, and then this is a polyatomic on the end there. That's phosphate. So I know this one's ionic. The next one, a metal. Sodium is a metal, and then phosphorus makes it's a non-metal, so that makes an anion. Those two are ionic. Now the last one, I've got phosphorus is a non-metal, and very close to it on the periodic table is chlorine, which is a non-metal. So this one is going to be molecular. So let's go look at our rules here. How do you name an ionic compound? What you do, it's really simple. First you name the cation, and then you name the anion. Well, when you write the formula, those ions disappear, right? Because it's a neutral compound. So what I'm going to do is split this thing back into ions. So if I break this apart, it's made up of 3 potassium ions, and then we've got 1 phosphate ion, and it had a -3 charge. So let's name those guys. Well, the cation is named as potassium, the same as the element, and then this polyatomic ion is phosphate. That's it. You don't tell how many, you just name the 2 ions in the compound. All right, the next one is sodium. So sodium makes the Na+ ion, and then phosphorus makes it's not phosphate, it is phosphide. So this one is sodium phosphide. Okay, it's really simple. Just name the ions. All right, now let's go to molecular. I actually think this is a little bit easier than ionic compounds. So here's our rule for molecular compounds. You use the prefix, which tells how many. So in this case, you do tell how many with prefixes. And those prefixes are mono, di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, octa, nona, deca. So that's 1 to 10. So the prefixes, and then the name of the first element, and then the second word is the prefix, the root of the second element, and then we end them with "ide." So let's look at this guy. I have 1 phosphorus, so that would be a mono, right? However, there is one little exception to this. If you just have a single element as your first element, you don't use mono. So in this case, we're just going to call this one phosphorus instead of mono. It's not criminal if you put the mono in there, it's fine. And then the prefix for 3 is tri. The root of chlorine is chlor. And then we're going to end it with the "ide." So phosphorus trichloride. So in the case of molecular compounds, you do tell how many, and that is with the use of prefixes. Now I'm going to show you one more little trick. Let's take an ionic compound, and instead of potassium phosphate, let's do iron phosphate. Now there's something unique about the iron here. Iron is a transition metal, and so we're going to name this compound iron, and then we're going to use parentheses, and then we're going to use the word phosphate. Now iron can form more than 1 charge of cation. It can be a +2 or a +3. So how do we know which one is in this compound? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to kind of split this thing back apart and say, well, I know that the phosphate over here carries a -3 charge. So what was the charge of the iron in this compound? Well, to be neutral, the iron had to be a +3 charge. So the name of the iron cation is iron 3. So when we're dealing with a transition metal, which iron is in that D block on your periodic table, you need to state the charge in parentheses in Roman numerals. And you'll find that you'll see lots of examples of this as you get into chemistry, and it will become really second nature to you. So I hope this clarifies how to name both ionic and molecular compounds. If you like my videos, subscribe to my channel, check out my TikTok and my website, canddochemistry.com. Thanks for joining me.